Oh, hey everyone. I going to apologize. I'm currently still moving a few things around trying to get ready for the live stream. It's been one of those days where you touch everything and it should be simple and instead you blow it up. I'm sure we've all had a day like that. Um so yeah. What? All right. Yeah, we got to find a cup of coffee here. How's everybody doing, guys? Oh, yeah, I've been working on my pickup truck. I ended up having this weird clunk in the I had this weird clunk in the back uh left, right, no, right. Okay. I had this weird clunk in the back right of the truck, and I ended up finding a broken spring in the rear drum. And I was like, oh, cool, I'll just replace it. I popped a new spring on because anytime I tear down drums, I always save the old springs if they've got anything left in them. It's just one of those things that I do. I find that it runs into that all the time. And apparently, when the spring ended up snapping off, it drove itself through the side of the wheel cylinder boot and everything else and scarred something. And yeah, so I've been fighting with a wheel cylinder for the last hour and a half or so. And AutoZone's website was adorable and said that they were in stock. And so I ran down there earlier today, and no, they're not in stock. Apparently, AutoZone is fighting with some interesting inventory problems that apparently rear wheel cylinders are part of their inventory problem. So yeah, it's so I got the wheel cylinder out. I got the line pulled over, put back on, everything else. And now I just got to wait for Jessie to get home and have her pump the brakes for me. And right now I'm borrowing her vehicle. And yeah. But yeah, so I'm a little grungy. I'm a little worn out, a little tired, but we're going to do this hour like we usually do. I've been trying to go and keep to this so you guys have it. Apparently somebody's managed to get out mudding. Yeah, I can't wait for mud season. We're really close up here in Maine. The problem is March is a really weird month up here because they won't open up the actual trails and everything until after a certain point. And so you got to be careful and make sure you're reading when it is everything is done. But Gravity feed the brakes. I would love to, except for it's a 2002, which means it's got ABS in it. And the only way to do it, as far as the ABS is concerned, is to have somebody in there and cycle it and get the motor to pump it up and pressurize, because it does have a diversion valve built into the ABS system for emergencies in case the pump fails. But it works a lot better to bleed it if you can have somebody that is running it and checking it. But yep, so that just is kind of where I'm at right now. How's the house coming along? I'm actually going to be releasing a video about that in the near future. There we go. Oh, there, that looks better. Now the camera will stop contrasting on that black spot in the background. If anybody's going to go and do any of these live streams and stuff, I really like Logitech's web camera for doing the HD quality live stream. But the one thing I'll tell you guys is that for some reason it picks up on shadowing really bad. So you need to have a solid wall of some sort behind you in order to go and do what you're doing. it just is what it is. Buy a Chevy. Actually, my girlfriend drives a Chevy. It's a Chevy Equinox, and she has a Chevy pickup truck. I can't think of what it is right now. Her father's using it for plowing right now. But we'll have that over here at some point. We'll be able to go and get that up and running. Oh, yeah. So as far as the house cleaning goes, we're going to cover a little bit on that later. The house cleaning is kind of stagnant right now, and I'll explain that in an up and coming video. I've got to finish what's going on right now. Let's see. What else we got? Will you ever add any more mods to the Mud Wizard? Actually, I've got a bunch of different stuff that I'm planning as far as the Mud Wizard is concerned. I don't like the way that its steering currently operates. I actually never got to finish the steering assembly the way that I wanted to finish it. I got interrupted and had to deal with some stuff. So I'd like to finish the steering to set it the way I want it. The other thing about the Mud Wizard is I never got a chance to install the back rack, and I bought one of the Harbor Freight back racks or some. I bought a really, really low cost back rack. And the idea was that it's the type of back rack that goes into a 2-inch ball receiver. So what I was going to do was weld a 2-inch ball receiver up just in underneath the rear metal so that you could have a back rack that you throw in there and pull out. It's actually supposed to be a cargo rack for a pickup truck, if I remember right. But I have it. It's brand new in box. I just never got a chance to install it because of, well, you know, the stuff that happened. Let's see if I can pivot this. If I bring this over here, can I do this so that I quit staring off into space? There we go. Now if I'm reading what you guys are writing, I actually look as if I'm almost looking at you. It's less creepy that way. Let me see. She's a keeper. Yeah, she definitely is. Without a question. Jesse's amazing. I was going to use my cell for streaming. It's a Samsung. If you're going to go and use your cell for streaming, make sure your internet connection is really, really well. The problem with using a cell phone for streaming is that if you end up bouncing off of a Wi-Fi signal that's not 3 bars or better, it'll actually keep trying to switch you to the cell signal if it's better, and that'll throw your streaming. That's the reason why I always stream directly from the computer. The computer will actually compensate if there's a streaming interruption, whereas the cell phone will just switch over and it interrupts your streaming. They supposedly have gotten better about it, but not always. No, don't buy a Chevy. You already have a Ford. No. I don't own the Chevy. The girlfriend owns the Chevys. I actually did buy another truck, and it is a Ford. We'll get to that later, depending on how some things sort out with it. There's a few things that are in limbo right now in my life, and they will get sorted out quickly. What do you think of a 11 horsepower Briggs flathead? See, the thing about Briggs flatheads is they run forever until they don't, which is the reason why it is a lot of the off-road guys are obsessed with 12 horsepower Briggs flatheads. The 12 horsepower Briggs flathead is just a run. It's like the Jeep 4.0 of Briggs. They just plain keep running until they finally seize a piston, snap the rod, and then blow the block to smithereens, and then you're done. There's no valve adjustments in them, which is well, okay, wait, let's clarify this. They are non-adjustable valves in them. So it means that if the valves do go out of adjustment, you overheated the stupid thing to the point that the valves went out of adjustment, which means the rest of it is probably junk anyway. So it is what it is. The 12, the 11, and the 8s are just really, really solid, unkillable engines. I like the Toros that have the 8 horsepower. I like the Briggs 12 horsepower flatheads. They're just plain a really rugged engine. All right, let's see. Oh, here's one you'll like. I began to tear into an F&R rear end. Had to cut the rims and pulley off. Too rusted. Um, in the future, the way that I have come up with that I get those rims off is, yeah, here, let's live dangerously. We'll use a capacitor for 220 volts as a demonstration prop. Okay, so if you've got your, all right, come here. Okay, so we're going to say that this is a rim, and you've got an axle coming down through here on the rim. So what I have figured out with those F&Rs is if you take them out of the tractor and you put 2x4s here where the axles go, and then you take something that is a cylinder that fits inside that rim, something really thick, you cut out the width of the axle here and you put it in underneath and you drive that pin down through on the inside, the axle shaft. And what I've actually found works good for driving those down through is the shaft out of a that spinny thing that has the blade on it. You know what I mean? The blade spindle off of something like a Craftsman or the dead Murray deck that you just ripped off. But that's one of those things. But yeah, those things absolutely suck to try and drive off. What do you prefer, chains or bar tires? I prefer chains, and the reason I don't like bar tires is that, and I'm assuming you mean agricultural tires where they've got the V tread, the bar tread. The thing I don't like about those is that if you get them on any kind of incline, they tend to slide until they find something they can build into the tread. So I tend to stay away from running those if I don't have to. They're great for a straight line. Without a question, agricultural tires, they pull in a straight line. That's what they're built for. But if you get them on any kind of tilt, they tend to slide until they build enough something into that, which means if you get on hard packed gravel, you get on any kind of slick surface, or you get on any kind of ice, you're sliding until it decides it's stopping. There's no your choice in that matter. And that's the reason why I tend to avoid them. For that reason is why it is I prefer chains, but it's a 6 1 half dozen the other. I mean, chains are an extra $60 to invest. So keep it in mind. Let's see. How's your snowfall for the year? Junk, absolute junk. And I'm really glad too, because the plow truck, as you guys saw in the video, is not running worse snot. So I'm really glad that there's been almost no snow. That'll be a video series in itself, is we're going to rip that truck down and we're going to turn it into nothing but a dedicated plow truck at some point. How do you make a homemade gas pedal? If you're going to look up gas pedal stuff, go over to Doc Sprocket and check out his gas pedal. He covers a lot of that kind of stuff really well. If you look at a lot of other mud mower channels, they build all kinds of different gas pedals and stuff like that. I run a Mr. Gasket pedal. If you actually if you look in the links that are below any of my live chats, you'll see my Amazon page, my Amazon store. In the mud mower section of that store, you're going to see the Mr. Gasket pedals. I swear by those things. I love them. They're adjustable. They have kickback. They're rugged. You can stomp on that thing all day. You're never going to bend anything. I swear by them. Most of the pulling tractor guys now have started switching over to running those. Um, I I won't run anything else. I absolutely love them. I mean, yeah, I might make it a 2-hole punch gas pedal for one of the low income builds that I'm thinking about doing, or one of the lower scale builds, but we'll see. What's going on with the blue Ford in the background of your videos? So that blue Ford is actually it's an 88 it's an 88 nose with an 87 Joker. um let's see, it's an 88 nose with an 87 Joker rear on it, with a yeah, it's an 88 nose, 87 Joker rear. It's got a 78 351 Windsor board 40 over in it, with a 84 transmission in it, with a rear that I have no idea where it came from. The answer to that is I rebuilt that motor a few years ago, and I ended up having some carburetor problems with it. The carburetor ended up just being a basket case. So I ended up getting a used Holly. And when I was tuning the used Holly, I walked away for a sec, and it ended up blowing the float bowl out the rear end of the Holly, and it dumped straight out gas right square onto open headers. The whole entire engine bay of that truck is utterly fried across the back firewall. There isn't a bit of electrical in it that isn't fried out and on the back firewall section. So luckily for me, when it lit it on fire, it it ended up lighting it out in front of my garage, not actually in the garage. And I managed to grab a fire extinguisher in time, and I managed to go and put it out. And the fire actually burnt off the ignition control, and it killed the motor, which killed the pump because it was a pump driven motor, which meant that the moment I got it out with the fire extinguisher, I was a really lucky guy that I didn't burn more things down. I pushed it over there, I parked it. It needs thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of work, and I just refuse to let the thing go. One of these days we'll get it put back together. It's on my to-do list, and we'll see. Hopefully we'll get there. All right, let's see. What do we got going on? So V-tread tires are good for drifting. If you look at some of my old test videos with my bear claws, you'll actually see that I had them overinflated at one point, which brought the center tread out, and those things will just drift straight around on any bit of hardpack. If you don't run them down so that the tread levels, they will drift on anything. What are you going to do with the 21 horsepower V-twin? So currently, right now, Mud Wizard's actually in limbo. And the reason being is because, well, there's an upcoming event that's going on in my area, and I'm waiting for some rules for the event to be finalized and declared. And once those rules to the event are finalized and declared, we're going to decide what to do about whether Mud Wizard will fit in with the event. As soon as the rules are fully finalized, I'll actually be releasing a video to you guys about what's going on. It's because of that that I need to see what's going on. Can't quite describe anything else past that. But for those that do know what's going on, there might be about 3 of you. Let's keep it under our hats. Let's roll with it first, okay? What do I think about an 18.5 horsepower Briggs? If you're talking about the opposed twin, they're a really beautiful motor. It's just maintain your gas because those carburetors are going to kill your wallet if you ever have to buy one. Do you still have the GT6000? Yes, actually, technically, I have two. I have a Hydro, which has a blown Kohler in it. Well, the Kohler's not blown, but it needs jug work. And then on top of that, I also have the gray one, which you guys have seen, that has the dump loader that I built for it. But let's see. All right, let's see here. Anyone else singing the One Piece of a Time by Johnny Cash? Yeah, actually, my last 1993 Ford Ranger was my last 1993 Ford Ranger was a 94 engine, a 93 body, a rear end out of a 92, and the transmission, I believe, also came out of a 92 with a 93 body, and then the rear the bed that I built, I had originally built on a 95 on a 93. Can I do a video on the blue Ford? If I get the chance to go and try and get it back up and running. Right now, okay, right now the serious aspect of my life is that I am just barely making enough income off of YouTube and everything else that I do to pay my bills. That basically is the straight out honest truth of my life right now. So as it is right now, I do not have extras. Um, I actually ended up just buying a compressor in order to be able to build myself a hot water tank air compressor like I did in an older video, and to build a bigger one. And the way I bought that was actually by cashing out stocks that I ended up managing to go and earn money with. So I'm really in a catch-22 right now. I bought that compressor and then ended up having the motor on it decide to go and fry. So now I'm trying to see what I can jury rig for a 110 motor to be able to get that compressor up and running so that I can be able to put an actual motor into it later. It's just how my life is right now. I'm scraping by. That's the way life is. As soon as we can hit lawn tractor season and as soon as I can start flipping machines, then we'll start chewing into some bigger builds. I got about a month, 2 months or so until we hit lawn tractor season. Then we'll go from there. It's a 18.5 single Briggs. The thing about the 18.5 singles is that the 18.5 single is actually the same block as a 15. I think it's a 15 through 19 if I remember right, or maybe it's a 15 through 18.5 or something like that. It's an interchangeable block on those Briggs. And then the 21 is a strokered 19 essentially. And you got to be careful once you hit into that mark. There's a reason I always shoot for a 17.5 when possible. It's the strokered version essentially of a 15, and then the 18.5 is where they tried to get a little bit more horsepower out of the same assembly. And as anybody knows in drag racing, The moment you try and get that extra little bit of horsepower is when stuff starts blowing up. So I tend to avoid the 19 and I tend to avoid the 18.5 and I tend to go for the 17 and the 17.5. As it is, it's an already strokered 15. That little bit extra that they're trying to get out of it, eventually something's going to blow. What size is the GT6000 that needs jugs? To be quite honest, I'm really not sure. I'll have to go and take a look. I think it's an 18. It's either an 18 or a 21. I don't remember which. The reason I've held on to it is because it was an odd size to begin with, and I just couldn't seem to go and find the part that was necessary for it at the time. But I've been talking with iSaveTractors.com or iSaveTractors here on YouTube, and I was going to go and see whether he might be able to find me the parts and maybe work with him. He's a really cool guy, by the way. You should check him out if you guys haven't. But yeah. Let me see. Kohler Magnum, that might be it. That might be the engine. I think it's a 20 horsepower Kohler Magnum that's in there, actually. Oh, you know what's cute in between, stuff? I actually had a sponsor send me something I thought you guys might find cute. Everybody needs that last little whatever. I was going to post a link for this. I think it's already in there. Down in the description on the video, there's a link for this. And these guys are actually out of here in the United States. And they make these armor gear. Let me see if I can get this thing on. It's an armor gear apron. And I actually really like this thing. And they asked me to put it into a video. And I told them, you know what? You send me one. And I will decide on it. And what's cool is that unlike a bunch of the older aprons, if I take my phone here and what I love about this thing is it's actually got a pocket big enough for my phone with the otter gear on it. Isn't that cool? So it's actually got two. It's got one down here also, and the phone actually fits inside the pocket, and the cover kicks over. I think that's great. See if their logo will show up. Armor gear. But yeah, I really like it. It fits really good. I'll end up posting it in a couple of different videos. But yeah, they actually specifically made a pocket that fits a cell phone and a large cell phone. Mine is an S10e, and it fits my girlfriend's S10 also. But so I thought that was pretty cool. If you guys get a chance, do me a favor. I don't care if you actually buy one, but click the link down there and just click on it so that they see some traffic. That way they know that I actually posted it in the sponsor, and that'll help me out. Maybe we'll see if we can get them to do a discount code or something, but they're actually made here in the United States, and I've been talking with the company and they're great. The owner's name is George. You couldn't get a more straightforward American name of George. Do we have to watch all of the ads for you to get money for YouTube? Don't worry about it. If you watched my video that I posted up at one point, January and February are the worst possible income months as far as YouTube is concerned. I really don't worry about it. It just is what it is. If you make $1,000 on YouTube during any other month, it doesn't matter. If you make $1,000 during January and February, you will be really lucky if you manage to go and make $400. It's just because there is nothing worth advertising through those months in the United States. It is what it is. Other YouTubers in other countries, I've discovered, apparently don't end up having that much of an issue. It's something to do with the way our holidays work here in the United States. What makes the best mud mower to use? Whatever you have. And it really depends on what it is you're trying to build for. There's a couple of the guys that do a more rally style that have started really loving modifying the MTDs with the Vari-Drives, because the MTD has a progressive drive system in it. And as long as you're not getting it wet, it's like a go-kart. And so you can vary it and you can be able to really mess with it. If you're going to actually hit the mud, if you're going to actually put the thing underwater, without question, no ifs, ands, or buts, I don't care what anybody says, it is without question a 90s into early 2000s, late 80s AYP Craftsman LT1000 series, Craftsman LT2000 that's been swapped over to a gear drive. Without question, they just torque up on the clutch system that's in them stock. If you take one of those clutches, you add a second spring on it, and you swap it to a Kevlar belt, stock, without question, it'll run underwater. It'll run in the worst mud you can put it into. Been there, done that. I've got video to prove it everywhere. You can go to another larger mud mower YouTuber, and you can watch all the old videos that I am in. That is a stock clutch assembly in there that is just walking along during the Sears diesel powered challenge, whatever video thing that he posted. I walked through every single one of those mud holes. I walk through all of them as it is. That's what I recommend. The Murray chassis, Murrays are showing up all over the place. And the thing about Murrays is that a lot of them come stock with either a Peerless 205 or a 930 in them, which are both really great transmissions. And the issue is you have to end up putting in some sort of custom, clutch assembly. And that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they do all the pulley swaps and everything else, but they don't end up either putting a better clutch spring in or doing a custom clutch. Looks like a blacksmithing apron. Actually, the apron actually was sent to me because of my metalworking stuff. And then they discovered that apparently the wax that they coated in is not exactly great for sparks. So I haven't decided what I'm going to end up displaying the apron in for a video. I might decide to hit it with some grinder sparks just because I'm that guy. I like to see what'll light on fire. So I might hit it with some grinder sparks just to see if I can light it on fire while I'm wearing it. We'll see. The owner of the company got a hold of me and clarified that it is a wax coat apron, so it will take a little bit of fire abuse. We'll see. We'll give it hell. It's made out of really, really thick canvas. And the reason why I like it actually is it's made out of really thick canvas, which is the same exact canvas style that Dickies Carpenter canvas pants are made out of, which is the reason why I agreed to do some testing on it. And the other thing is it's double rolled canvas. It's not a single layer. It's actually double layered back to back and then sewn down the seam, which was the other thing I called them out on, because I get offered those aprons one right after another from the Chinese people all the time. And most of them are single layer canvas. They're not double layer like that one is, and they're not double layered around the seam and everything. So I can't wait to go and try those, because the canvas dickies that I prefer will actually take getting hit with welder sparks for quite a decent amount of time, and they'll actually take getting hit with grinder sparks for quite a decent amount. So we're going to try this thing. We're going to put it through hell. Well, let's see what it'll do. And I told the guy straight outright, I will probably catch it on fire. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I don't hold back when I do reviews. So you better be willing to send me a product that I'm allowed to burn, because it's going to happen. And he says it'll take the sparks, so we're going to try it. All right, let's see, where are we at? Are you going to make any more mud mower videos? Actually, I do have a series that I've been talking with a few other YouTubers about. And a lot of us have really started to take notice, especially if you go to Home Depot's website. Home Depot right now has 33 lawn tractors for sale. Out of those 33, only one tractor is sold with a geared rear end. Out of the others, 12 of them are MTDs with a Vari-Drive, and the rest are all hydros of some sort. So I think at some point we are going to shift things over and start working more towards a few MTD builds and see what we can do with those. I would like to convert an MTD to full no ifs, ands, or buts, full Kevlar belts. I'd like to run it into the mud. I'd like to reinforce the chassis, and I'd like to see what we can make that Vari-Drive system do. The key problem with an MTD is the Vari-Drive system. Once you get it wet, that clutch system no longer works. And I want to see whether certain Kevlar belts will get around that, whether there's a way to upgrade the spring that's in that clutch system, whether there's a way to change out the spring that's in the Vari-Drive for a stronger one. We're going to see what we can do. Do you know any place to go and get 3 horsepower Subaru parts? The ongoing thing I have told everybody, and I do buy from them occasionally, but they tend to be have you ever dealt with a place where they will always have the part, and if they don't have the part, nobody else does, but they're also the most expensive? LMC Truck is a very good example of that. Partstree.com. If partstree.com doesn't have it, nobody does. So look it up on partstree.com, take their model number, throw that into Amazon, see if there's a comparable model. If partstree.com does not have it, then it's a waste of time usually to look anywhere else. They go out of their way to be the most perfectly stocked company out there. All right, let's see. Where are you guys at here? What's going on with the Monte Carlo in the garage? The Monte Carlo in the garage will get pulled out at some point at some point during this summer. So the straightforward, honest truth to everybody here is I was a severe alcoholic for about 10 years straight, and the Monte Carlo was bought during that alcoholic time. I tore it apart while drunk. To be totally dead honest, I don't remember anything about tearing it apart. Um, what ended up happening is that I tore it apart while drunk, totally blacked out, do not remember anything when I tore it apart, and I haven't been able to get it put back together because every time I go to work on it, I end up in a massive, utter case of depression. And I'm now going on 2 years of being sober, and I'm starting to go and get my mojo back. I'm starting to be able to go and face a lot of the stuff that I really messed up when I was an alcoholic. So we're going to start tearing into stuff like that. The reality is, I don't know what it needs. I really hate to say that. It absolutely is one of the downfalls of my alcoholic life, is that there's a lot of things in my life that I tore apart or I put back together that I don't even remember doing. And that was because I was a blackout drunk alcoholic. And that Monte Carlo is one of them. So sooner or later, we're going to face that reality. And there'll be a video series on it. And it's going to be really straightforward, the fact that I tore it apart drunk and I don't remember. I don't know. We'll get there, though. We're going to. It's on my to-do list without question. They call it duck cloth. Huh. I'll have to look up duck cloth later. I've never heard of that. Cool. Good to know. Are you going to make any more mud mower videos? Think we already covered that. Yes, there definitely will be more mud mower videos. Actually, the goal is for there to be a lot more mud mower videos this year. Lauren, I'll get back to you as far as the smithing thing is concerned. There's actually some interesting things going on there. So I will hit you up personally later. Do you go mudding with just anybody that wants to go mudding with you? So here's the aspect as far as the mud mower stuff is concerned. I have been trying for the last 2 years, unfortunately, dealing with a now ex that was an absolute inappropriate term about understanding that a YouTube channel is based on doing things. I have been trying to be able to set up a mud mower event for last 2 years. Now, last 2 years, I have unfortunately had somebody in my life that threw giant monkey wrenches into it every single time. This year, I'm paired with a woman who absolutely loves mud. So guess what? We're going to have some fun. There's a place here in Maine that has okayed the idea of running mud mowers. The aspect, though, is that it must be legally registered as an ATV in the state of Maine. And right now, there is a lot of ATV law that is really up in the air, toss of a coin right now in the state of Maine. Is it going to affect anything to do with registering a mud mower? The answer is you will still be able to register a mud mower, but the cost of registration is potentially going to be a ton higher. That current legislation is going to be done in the next month or so. And once that next month is over and done with, I'm going to start trying to go and figure out what we can do. The problem right now is where I currently live, I do not have access to an open trail. The trail out behind my house was supposed to get reopened last year. It didn't happen. Unfortunately, the guy who was supposed to go and reopen the trail out behind my house, A, ended up arrested, B, ended up arrested again, C, ended up in a divorce. So it didn't get reopened, and it's probably not going to get reopened like it was supposed to be. So I can't host a mud mower run directly from my house. It also means that me, to be able to run my mud mower, I have to go to another location, which means there's a couple of places that we're potentially going to run. The other problem that I'm dealing with right now is that the ATV club that I had intended to join in order to be able to run my mud mower, my now ex occasionally decides to help in. Haven't quite found out whether she's actually part of it still or whether she intends to show up there. And judging from everything that happened around my house and all the fun stuff I found in gas tanks and everything else, not really sure I care to show up to an ATV club that has her present. So if you happen to have a location that is legal to run a mud mower and you want to get together and you want to go and talk about running mud mowers, hit me up. Send me an email. I will gladly talk with you about the idea. The problem right now that I'm running into is I have to be able to take John. And that caused me a lot of issues in the past, is the fact that I have to be able to take John. And until I build the mud mower to the point that John can ride on a back seat of some sort, as far as general trail riding is concerned, it's still an issue. So that's something else that I'm working on and working out right now. So hit me up. We can try and sort something out. If you can ride during the middle of the week, oh yeah, I will definitely show up in order to play. What year? What year is the Monte Carlo? The Monte Carlo is in '84. I actually learned to drive here. Wait a minute. Let me show you the reason why I have a Monte Carlo. I actually have the reason why I have a Monte Carlo right here. So most people learn to drive on really, really, you know, whatever type vehicles. Not me. Not me. I, however, wait a minute. So most people learn to drive in mommy's 4-cylinder banger, whatever. Most people learn to drive on that. This that is my dad's 1983 Monte Carlo that I learned to drive in. That was how I learned to drive. There's my dad's Camaro from when I was growing up as a kid. So, that's, you want to see a horrible, horrible, horrible photo? Here we go. There you go. Now you guys can laugh. You want to see another photo that's absolutely incriminating, and then I'll stop? This is horrible. This is me in college. Ready? Oh yeah, I was smooth something all right. Anyways, so I originally learned to drive on an 83 that had, some basic mods to it and everything else, but it was still a standard regular, I think it was the 355 if I remember right. It had been modded up a little bit, but still was streetable without too much of an issue. Oh yeah, no, I am definitely an ex-alcoholic without question. Um, a lot of people will end up asking me the question of, and this goes back to tractors. A lot of people will end up asking me the question of, how did you decide you were an alcoholic, or how did you know you were an alcoholic? Which amazes me. Most alcoholics don't realize they're an alcoholic until they have that epiphany moment. My epiphany moment was back a few years ago. I had a lawn tractor that I was working on. I was working on a lawn tractor with a friend, and I reached over, I grabbed a bottle of 151 Bacardi. I took a swig out of that bottle of 151 Bacardi. I poured some 151 Bacardi down the carburetor spout of that tractor and fired it up, because Bacardi will run an engine, and it smells like the perfect smoker smoke, like that hickory burn smoke. And so you can smell it burning through the exhaust. And when the motor kicks over, you can you can tell it kicks over onto gas, and you know the carburetor is starting to kick over. So I fired up the tractor, and while it was sitting there burning off that 151, I took another shot of Bacardi 151, stayed walking, fixed the rest of the tractor, and sent my friend on his way. At that point, about 2 days later, my friend decided to go and give me the heads up of, you do realize you were drinking something that ran a lawn tractor. That was when I kind of realized I was an alcoholic. But I'm very vocal. I'm very straightforward about being an alcoholic in my past years. Um, and the one thing that I've always described to everybody is that the difference between a regular person drinking and an alcoholic drinking is, a regular person can go out on a Friday night, they can have a good night, they can manage to go and drink 3 or 4 drinks, they can get absolutely plastered, but on Saturday morning when they wake up, they might have a Bloody Mary, they might have something in order to be able to start the day off, in order to get rid of the hangover, but they don't keep drinking. That's the difference between an alcoholic and a regular drinker. Is that the alcoholic wakes up the next day, finishes, has a beer when they wake up in the middle of the night, has another beer with breakfast, has another beer with lunch, has another beer after lunch with a snack, and continues drinking the rest of the day. That's the life of an alcoholic. I literally, at one point figured out that I was drinking anywhere in the range from 160 to $180 a week or more in alcohol. And quitting being an alcoholic thoroughly changed my entire life. In fact, quitting being an alcoholic is what allowed me to do this. All right, let's see. Yep, 85. Let's see, it's 88. I think they ended the last year of the possible SSs. Um, but there's a Rochester carburetor update in the end of 86 into 87, if I remember right. And that's, yeah. Midnight Blue. That's funny, actually. The hell did I have? I had a K1500 pickup truck back years ago that was midnight blue. I actually used to get compliments on that truck all the time because it was unique. Let's see. Okay, guys. So we got about 5 minutes before I got to get off of here. I got to get things shut down so I can go get Jesse from work. And I know it sounds stupid, but I love going to pick her up from work every day. It's old school. I like dropping her off, and I like checking in with her at lunch, and I like going to go get her every single day. Just one of those old school things, you know? It's the little things that really keep a relationship going, and keep that in mind, guys. Let's see. How do I fix my throttle assembly? It keeps going full throttle when I don't want it to. If you don't want it to and it's going full throttle, then you got some other issues. Check all your spring assemblies and check all your running guides and everything else. Grease the PB Blaster, the snot out of everything, and let it soak in, and deliberately with it off. I don't understand why it is people think it's a good idea to do it with it on. With it off, PB Blaster the snot out of all the linkage, grab your governor and just go tick, 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 back and forth with it to the point you can't stand doing it any longer. You're not doing it hard enough to actually bend it, knock it free or anything. Man, that's got a burp in it. You're not doing it hard enough to knock it loose off of the governor rod, but just go tick, 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 tick with it insanely. And a lot of times they'll reseat. But yeah, PB Blaster the snot out of that thing. Is there any ways you can do more videos during the week or on set days? Actually, my goal was to go and do 2 to 3 videos a week, but unfortunately, I've had one of those situations in life that, well, let's just say that when you're the guy who takes care of everything, you end up having to stop everything to take care of everything. There's a personal side to my life that I have to take care of on a regular basis that has started to migrate away. That might be the polite way to word it. And the more that migrates away, the more I'm able to focus on YouTube and actually doing what I need to do. And that's going to allow me to get to the point I can do 2 to 3 videos a week, which is my real honest goal. My real honest goal is to get to the point that I'm doing a video release every Wednesday and every Saturday, Sunday-ish. That's the idea. All right, guys. So, all right. So, hey everyone, I just want to go and say thank you. Thank you very much for stopping in. Thanks everybody for kicking in. As always, if you need to go and get a hold of me and you want to go and get a hold of me, you're more than welcome to message me through the Facebook page. I check it twice a day, except for usually Thursdays. Thursday is my girlfriend's only day off. I dedicate that to her. If you happen to catch me online, it's probably because she's in the shower and I decided not to be there. That's a bad joke. Anyways, as far as the email is concerned, you're more than welcome to go and get a hold of me through the email. Maine is in the state, mudmower@yahoo.com. You're more than welcome to go and send me an email at any point. I check that usually every single night, including on Thursdays. I usually check it every morning, sometime usually around 10 o'clock-ish Eastern time. And these video chats, if you feel like coming in order to be able to post up a question, I'm going to try to do these every other week unless they happen to fall on a holiday. If they fall on a holiday, it'll be the week after, and then we'll continue the rotation every other week. There we go, guys. That's how we're going to do it from here on. Have fun. Thank you. And drive safe. Or at least don't be stupid, or catch it on video if you do.